Good evening, everyone. My name is Laura Shippen, and I will bring the meeting of the Select Board to order on April 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. Roll call.
Veronica Cal present.
And Laura Shippen present. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Oh,
I am going to stay
that's okay.
seated.
I know that you're respectful. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to continue to thank our veterans, as well as those currently serving to protect our country, as well as our emergency response individuals and their families. I also want to continue to thank all the town hall employees and all of those in town who are lending their comments to us as we go through our budget process. Veronica, did you have any comments?
No, I did not.
Okay. This meeting is being recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Is there anyone else recording? Is there anyone online recording? I see anybody else. I do not have any. I look at the right agenda. Do not have any chairman's resolutions at this time. 1.5. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. Could we take one at a time?
Sure. Which one do you want to do first? February?
Yeah.
All right. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for 2/18/2025 with changes as noted in the hard copy.
Okay. And I will second that, as well as I have hard copy changes as well. And I've already given them to Sabrina.
I will do my.
Is there anything you want to discuss on there?
No, most of these were, take a D off of ED. Something that was past tense. It didn't have to be a comma. That could have been a slash. This is the February 18th. I did have a question about discuss articles for special town meeting. The last paragraph in that motion was made by Veronica Callan, seconded by Laura Schifrin, moved LS, seconded.
What number?
4.7.
Okay.
So just the paragraph just above 4.8.
Okay.
Motion was made by Veronica Cal, seconded by Laura Schifrin, moved LS, seconded too. Yeah,
I saw that.
I wasn't sure what the fix should be, but that needs correcting.
Oh, cross it out. And it should be fine.
And so that's it.
Okay.
There's the for Haynes Road, it says Haynes Rod, and it's / Wallace Hill Road. For the TAHT properties, that's in 5.2, the TAHT report presentation. So it's nothing that is,
okay.
I
didn't catch that one. So I have maybe 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Was the 1-year extension on the 63,000? I thought it was 62,000.
62.
Okay, so
yeah.
that's I had that marked. Okay. And then, see, at least we're not asleep. So also, under your report, Veronica, on 5.2.
Yeah, the one we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, for my question, does Atwood Acres really go back to market rate at 2029?
Yes, the answer to that is yes. But the question is, does it revert to market rate, or is HUD going to keep it affordable? And we don't know, because we do not own that property.
Right.
So the housing authority, which we do not have an active housing authority right now, is really their, that's in their purview,
Right.
to look at. But yes, it's the way the mortgage was written. It isn't anything nefarious or anything like that. It's just the way the mortgages for affordability were being written through HUD at that time. And so and it reverts back. It's like a 30-year, and it reverts back. The affordability goes away unless something is done to keep it affordable.
Okay,
and
but that's
now
really within the purview of HUD and
our cap. Yeah. So, but there are things that can be done that housing authorities can. We should be working with them. We should be asking the question now.
We need to get somebody in there.
Yes,
volunteers to do.
We don't have a quorum. We only have 2 people on a 5-person board, and so they can't meet. So until that changes, it's not the housing trusts. It's not under our umbrella.
Right.
You know, when I say our, because I'm the select board rep to the house, it's not under that umbrella. Right. It's under the housing authority umbrella.
Okay.
And so, this has happened to other, developments of the same type in like Cambridge and Somerville and other places that were all developed at the same time that this was done. So I have a question. Things are different now.
Yeah.
But that's when it was developed, so that's the way it is.
So the last, so this is within the trust. So the last paragraph where it says the planning board does not exercise the affordability clause, RFP planned hopefully development within 2 to 3 years. And that is by the housing trust.
That's correct.
That sentence. So could we just put that in there, by the housing trust?
Sure.
I just have a note, we need to straighten this out. That doesn't have on the minutes, but that was my note. This has to be straightened out. Okay. And that's about it on that. So having discussed whatever changes and given them to Sabrina, any further discussion?
No, I don't have anything else.
Hearing none, roll call.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes. So next would be the March 4th.
I make a motion to accept the March 4th, 2025 minutes with changes as noted in our comments to Sabrina.
Okay, and I second that. And
I have very few on this.
I have very few as well, but mine are more questions than changes. Yeah, mine were more like a comment or a question, like under your updates.
Okay.
For climate action plan for Townsend, open space recreation. Who's doing that?
So
someone doing it?
it is, so the person's name, Michelle Zelenka, she is working for 3 other towns. So it's us, Littleton, Pepperell, and Groton.
Is it Groton or Dunstable?
I'm sorry, Dunstable. So her salary.
Part of the grant?
Correct.
Oh.
Yep. So it's only for 1 year.
Okay.
So, we have, basically 25% of her time. And it's funny you bring it up because I was hoping to have her at the next select board's meeting next Tuesday to introduce herself.
Especially see that you were going to submit that information to her. So yeah, that'd be
good. I've already submitted a bunch of stuff that we already had like on a shelf, like our master plan,
the MVP plan.
Yep. The open space, and recreation plan, along with a few other documents that we've, paid for and, had completed over the years. So she's gonna look through all those documents and take out certain pieces that are, related to climate action, and then, put together a document afterwards.
But it's not just climate action, right? It's all those topics?
Well, it's,
Well,
all those documents and plans and reports, she'll take certain pieces out
okay.
to come
I
up
see.
with a climate action plan. So I'll put her on the agenda for next Tuesday's select board meeting. For her.
And there's a grant because this is also something that's mandated by the state?
What was
No.
that?
No, this is not mandated.
No, this is
No.
all voluntary. Yep. So,
Okay,
It was that, it stemmed from that climate action committee that got started maybe 4 or 5 years ago and met regularly, and this is the result of that.
and, we went in on it with 3 other communities to, because, there's probably not enough work for one person full-time in one community, so we're
Right.
splitting it up 4 ways,
and with the grant, it's fine at this point.
Yep.
I only had a comment under the, special town meeting, and only that the lights were still an issue. For me,
Was it too bright or too
Too bright.
dark?
it
Oh,
wasn't too dark.
well, no, in January it was actually a little dark, because, that's what TCAM had said. Because some of those overhead lights actually were not turned on for the January special time, which we did end up turning it on in March. So you're saying it's a little too bright then?
Yeah, I thought the lights were too bright
Okay.
at the first meeting, but that was only
Oh,
because of
okay.
what was the slideshow thing.
It was very
No,
bright.
Yeah, well,
I think it was the lights that face the stage.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because I didn't turn them down for the,
presentation.
presentation, and that made a huge difference.
okay,
So just to have the overhead lights,
yeah,
but,
yeah, well,
yeah.
there was a concern after the January one that was actually too, it wasn't bright enough for TCAM purposes.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
for
when it's being,
filming it or
yeah,
whatever, yeah.
exactly, so
Okay.
we turned it up in March, and I guess that was too bright, so we'll figure out what the happy, compromise might be, so, okay. I didn't realize it was too bright for you guys.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the lights were just shining. And I think it's hard for the moderator to see out in the audience to call on people.
Okay,
I
right,
think that makes a difference too.
okay, we'll need to go back to the drawing board then to see what's the compromise.
I'm good if you are.
Yeah, I am. My changes are, renewal should be renewable. There's a
Yep.
safe that should be saved.
Okay.
It's
Just clean up.
nothing huge content wise, so
Okay.
it's good.
All right, so roll call.
Veronica Kell, yes?
Laura Schiffern, yes. 2, concerns, none, 3. Yes, 3. One Kathy Spoford as the temporary town clerk, effective April 28th, 2025 through May 2nd, 2025. Kathy's here.
You wanna come to the table, or?
If you want me to, I can, but that's okay.
Whatever you like.
Kathy and I did sort of speak on that earlier, and the dates are still the same, nothing really changes. I think we agreed on 32 hours at your, whatever your hourly rate equivalent would be.
Exactly.
And we thought that would be sufficient to close out the annual town election.
Right.
So I have a question. Why can't the assistant town clerk?
She
do
can.
that?
She can,
She can.
yes.
And we're paying her salary anyway, or would this be something over and above her salary?
That's between you and her.
Well, but she's already an employee, so why would there be above and beyond in terms of her compensation, or what do you mean?
Because she'd be acting as town clerk.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, that might be a separate conversation, because she would be,
Have you had the conversation with her? I mean, she works for you.
We've talked about it. She's more comfortable to have me there. She's very capable of running the election itself. It's the after pieces that she's not sure of. So that's entirely your call on that.
I think Kat, this should be your last hurrah, so, because it kind of is.
16-hour day.
Yeah, I know, right, but, so I'm in favor of, this being like your last, like, big official,
Yeah.
thing that you work on, so.
When does the new town clerk then get sworn in? I mean, how does that work?
When does he get paid?
So.
Or she, as the case may
Or,
be,
right,
there are
Yeah,
different
you're
people
just,
running.
yeah, the person. So according to Mass General Law, she or he starts, a week after the election. So it would be the Monday after, unless otherwise qualified. So if he was sworn in, she was sworn in earlier, could start. The only thing is with that, they cannot close out the election.
Okay,
Because they weren't, whoever is in charge of the election closes out the election, has to sign off on everything.
okay,
So if I'm not here, I don't sign off on it. It would be, if Jess ran it, it would be Jess that would sign off on it,
okay.
on all the paperwork.
Has
So
Jess
we-
ever
so-
run an election?
Not by herself, no.
Okay,
She's very good at elections, I'll say that much for her, but no, she has not. And she hasn't done the after paperwork and everything.
So then, so I'm just talking.
No, that's okay.
Can-
Whatever.
Is it okay or possible to have the new town clerk start on May 3rd?
So May 3rd is a Saturday. I
Well, not
believe.
May 3rd.
Yeah.
So the earliest
So
conceivably would be
Whatever that
So
Monday
as
Monday,
soon-
May 5th.
I would say as soon as the election is signed off on, they could start, and they have to be sworn in.
Right.
So are they missing a training opportunity by not being there
But
for,
they could come in, whoever it is, they could both.
but
come
they
in,
wouldn't be paid?
But they wouldn't be paid,
That's
exactly.
the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, they wouldn't be paid, but
That would be all right.
they could do that.
But realistically, the new town clerk will be sworn in, Monday, May 5th, like that,
Well, a
just
lot
the-
of times we swear them in because they're excited the night of.
Oh, yeah.
And it's supposed to be a justice of the peace to the town moderator to swear in. I'm a justice of the peace, so I could swear them in whether I'm the town clerk or
Oh,
not.
okay.
So they could get sworn in, but their duties wouldn't begin yet.
Okay,
So,
so it would just be,
Okay, so that's all right.
okay, so it'd be just cleaner to swear them in the day that they start.
yeah, or later in the week before.
Right, okay.
But it doesn't mean that they can't come in. I
Right.
mean,
'Cause they can go
they've been
now.
elected, so they can come in and show them different things.
Right,
I mean, Jess will be there too to help them
but that
get
wouldn't,
acclimated.
affect, Kathy's temporary appointment, as,
Right.
Right,
So
for that week.
would that be 1099 work then? Not payroll work? Because she's retiring, so she's off the payroll at the
Well-
point that she retires.
I mean,
But that's May 2nd.
my
No,
last day, my
Oh, no. it's
official
not.
date of retirement is April 30th with Middlesex County Retirement. It's a little bit different date because I had to retire before the election, give you that notice of retirement.
Right.
But I waited till the end of the month, so it would be for Middlesex County.
Kathy wouldn't have to be a 1099 because,
I don't think so.
yeah, because we have employees that are,
Well, Ross was an interim
yeah, and.
and I don't think he was on a 1099, was he?
no, when Ross was the interim, he was paid as an employee.
Yeah,
But what I'm wondering about is, my understanding was that we couldn't have two town clerks at the same time.
You wouldn't,
We wouldn't.
no,
Okay.
Because the start date is the following Monday.
So even though the person is elected on the 28th, they do not
don't
become the
begin.
town clerk
Right.
until after
right,
you're out. Okay.
right.
All right.
But, yeah, so I don't think a 1099 would be really necessary or
You
needed.
just need to fill out a, employee status form to
Yep.
change that.
Correct, yeah, you'll be, your title will be temporary town clerk versus.
Interim, yeah,
Well, there's actually a difference apparently, interim versus temporary, and I had actually, Adam corrected me a few times in my emails. Apparently there is a
Oh.
distinction. I mean, it doesn't matter to you because there's still.
oh, because there's an elected one? Or is that why?
That might be the distinction, but
Okay.
the word temporary and interim means two different things.
Yeah,
So,
okay,
I guess I just want to make sure that it's taken care of that there aren't anything, just make sure it's taken care of as far as payroll goes.
yeah,
Yep.
That's all.
Yep, we'll do that behind the scenes and figure out what that would look like. Some sort of employee action form. And if there's anything else, we'll figure it out. So, but, yep.
Exactly why we need HR. All right. So, do we need a motion?
I believe so.
You do.
All right, I move that we appoint Kathy Spofford as the temporary town clerk effective 4/28/25 through 5/2/25.
I second. Any further discussion?
No,
Hearing none, roll call.
Veronica Kell, yes.
Laura Schiffern, yes.
okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you.
4.1, Green Community Grant Presentation.
Oh, I just saw Ron.
I did just see him, like literally a minute ago.
Is there anything in our folder?
You guys here for an appointment?
Let me
Just to join us?
see if I can find Ron. He's probably rolling around somewhere.
Oh, we do have the table.
I'm sharing my screen. No, we put you on as one of the early items. Hello.
Hello, you're right on time.
I do.
I don't know what information you provided with out of what I emailed, but the,
That's what I'm.
get it up there, great, you got the whole thing. All right, the Energy Committee met today to talk about the competitive grant, Green Communities. We've been doing this for some years now. Mike Brown and I met this afternoon to try to determine which of the items would most likely survive competitive tests. In other words, there's some things that we could have done that might have saved $1,000 a year, but if we had chosen those things, it would have brought our competitive nature of our application down, such that we didn't think we would risk losing the $30,000 annual savings from the lighting projects. We lose the whole thing if we added that. So we took out the three potential police projects. The grant we left in the
Oh, I'm sorry. That's all right, I'm not walking on them.
yeah, if you're walking on that would be a problem. All right, town hall, the traditional retro commissioning study. Retro commissioning study is a really detailed study of the heating system. We did a project like this for the library senior center that was completed in August. made many recommendations which don't save money until you execute them. So there's no savings in this until you are completed and execute. But it should give us a long-term, a detailed view of this structure. The proposal was to try to do this, on the town hall. The HVAC evaluation will provide us with information going forward that, you know, there may be over the next 10 years, $1 million worth of work needs to be done on the heating system here. So it's a good idea to have guidance up front, and that's what this is about. The two school lighting projects, we are limited to $100,000 in total school lighting projects per contract year. That's why this comes out to that. And actually, to make it come, we were about $1,300 higher than that on the quote. And Rise Engineering saw that little amount and basically reduced their quote, so it would all fit in with no community contribution. Also, the MCRP, our administrative assistance is available, and it's a $3,000, which I highly recommend. We can't do all of the detailed reporting and stuff ourselves. It's handled professionally. And so the grant funding for these projects comes up to $125,500 with, if you can move our spreadsheet over that way a little bit. Community contribution is zero, nothing for us to contribute. And there's more detail on the sheet, but if you don't need it, there's no reason to get into it here, more technical stuff, reasons why we made our decisions. Okay, that's our recommendation. And it was unanimous. The only two people on the committee.
Who applies for the grant? Who puts in the application? Is it Kieran or is it MRPC?
MRPC.
MRPC.
Yeah, Karen will handle
So that $3,000 will, that would cover the cost of submitting the application as well as reporting that's associated with that, which also,
yes,
you know,
that's an annual fee.
Yeah, so there's you know, submitting the application, and then there might be, I don't know if there's necessarily quarterly reporting, but there's certainly a closeout when the project is over. That a report
The program asks for progress reports, and then there's the annual report at the other end.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of reporting that needs to be done for this grant.
That
That's
is
good
my
to me.
report and our request.
So do we need a vote to put in the application for the green communities based on the recommendation of the Energy Committee?
It's
Sounds good.
it needs to be done, applied by April 4th, this week.
Friday.
That's what I
It's on
thought.
here.
So I move that we go forward with the Green Communities grant application as determined by the Energy Committee and forward it to MRPC so that the application is put in by April 4th.
I will second that. Any further discussion? Sounds doable.
For me.
Okay, roll call.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Laura Schiffern, yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate your work.
Very-
Okay, 4.2.
Is that your jacket?
That is. I thought I left it outside. Thank you.
Geez, I do stuff right there.
Do we have the warrant on the, I haven't seen them. Do we have a copy of the warrant to look at? Or are we just opening and if we're opening and closing it?
We're just opening and closing it.
There's not one written up yet. This is just to open for it. The special, right? Yes.
We're
Yeah.
opening and closing it today and we don't have anything populating in it?
No, we're opening it tomorrow and it's closing on the 14th.
I might not have
Harry, this is
the current.
yeah, with the
Okay,
motions.
all right, I have what was in
And even this
SharePoint.
one.
All right,
I have it from here down, but I didn't have it from up here.
no, sorry. Yeah, I want to concentrate on,
Down,
Yeah.
okay. Is there a motion?
I move we open the special town meeting warrant on April 2nd, 2025, and close it on April 14th, 2025.
And I second. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay.
Well, yes, maybe there is. Because we need to have, do we know what's going in that yet? I know the capital planning has at least 2 articles in it on the special, well, we have one on the special town meeting. The other one is probably on the regular town meeting.
I don't have a good sense of what's gonna be in this special town meeting at the moment, what articles, but we
Is that
certainly.
enough time though for you to get it together, do you think?
Well, absolutely. I thought we already did that, like at the end of February, that we
Well,
said these need to go on.
Oh, yeah, no, we did, but in terms of any additional ones, I can't think of any at the moment. So we should revisit that list that we had done up.
Yeah,
but-
that's what I kept
Yeah.
waiting for it to appear in the SharePoint and it
Okay.
didn't, so, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, we're just opening it, we're not, ready to
To
discuss them
populate it,
quite
okay.
yet, yep.
Maybe we can have an update at, next week's meeting.
Sure, I can do that.
But we're not dealing, with all of it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So, did you guys actually?
We have not voted
Okay.
yet. I'm waiting.
No, and how does my agenda disappear?
This isn't the one that got handed to me just now, is it?
I hope not, because I don't have,
I gave you the agenda with the motion language.
I know, I just showed it to you.
Oh, is this it?
Well, no, I gave her a copy too. I think you must have shuffled it and everything.
Is it turned upside down over there?
Must be.
Those are the 2 minutes.
Sabrina has another copy if you wanna reference that.
April 1st, sorry, it's me.
Oh,
It's me.
okay.
You got it?
Yeah, it's me, my fault. Okay, if there's no further discussion on 4.2, to open and close the special town meeting warrant by April 14th, I'll take a roll call.
Veronica Cal, yes.
Laura Schiffern, yes. 4.3, review and sign annual town election warrant for annual town election on April 28th.
Okay. I moved to sign the annual town election warrant for the annual town election on April 28th, 2025. I'm just making sure.
I made those changes and
Okay.
I alerted Kathy of them, so I provided her with a copy of,
For the ballot.
Is she who provided you with the first ballot?
the article, yeah, and the things
The
that we had.
election warrant.
Yeah, and the things we had to correct was, the select board members, it was like a previous board,
And the dates?
Yeah.
Date was like 2023 or something.
right, and, it referenced the selectmen,
Right.
it's now the select board. So, I made those changes and
Okay.
the correct version is on SharePoint. So,
All right.
so we can, sign it on a session so that we can, post the warrant.
So should I amend to say and sign out of session?
Yeah, that'll be great.
Do you want me to read the motion again? Or
Please.
good? I move to sign the annual town election warrant for the annual town election on 4/28/2025, out of session.
I'll second. Any further discussion?
No.
Roll call,
Veronica Kell, yes.
Laura Schiffern, yes. Moving on, contract for engineering. For Kids Country. We saw that. Is there a motion?
I move that we designate Nelson Moy, Town Administrator, as signatory on the contract with Kimley Horn to provide design and engineering services for the Kids Country Playground project.
And I second. Discussion?
No, I am good.
Okay, and I have none either. Roll call,
Veronica Kell, yes.
Laura Schiffern, yes. 4.5. Renewal of Guardian IT services. Is there a motion?
Yes. I move that we designate Nelson Moy, Town Administrator, as signatory to contract with Guardian Information Technologies Incorporated to provide Townsend with virtual IT services, endpoint detection and response services, managed Office 365 bundle, and Microsoft Exchange 365 email services, and managed firewall services.
Second. Discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to know the total on these.
Let's see here.
I saw 3, unless things have gone in. There's more in now.
There's,
Okay.
yeah, there's 4 of them,
Alright.
Four.
yeah. So I can,
Four contracts.
yep, I can speak to them and just pull them up.
I pulled up the 3 that were in there when I went over things, probably Sunday night.
Yeah, I put something in, yesterday, around 11:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So let me just pull them up. So the first one, I guess you could call it the base contract. It's labeled as virtual IT services. This is really like the base contract that Guardian provides
Right.
to us. And let me just see,
And it says something went wrong on SharePoint.
and I'll bring up the total for everyone. So the base service that they provide totals $81.73 a month. So that, you know,
8,173 or $81.73.
no, $8,173. So, you know, that's to cover all the, you know, the laptops that we have, all the servers and other pieces of equipment. And there's also, it's also capped at the moment, 40 hours a month. In the past, it actually was closer to 50, but they actually did us a solid and figured out that we actually weren't any approaching anywhere near the 50 hours a month. So they actually bumped it down to 40, which actually saves us you know, a bunch of money. 40 is that's kind of what we've been averaging here and there. Some months might be a little bit less, and I think they carry over those hours into the following months as well. So I would say, yeah, 40 hours a month is what we're, you know, averaging in terms of our IT needs.
Okay.
So that's sort of the base level service that they provide, and then there's other auxiliary services that they provide are just as critical, I would say. One is managing the firewall. That's sort of what protects us from the outside and, you know, nefarious.
Is there a separate contract for that?
There is, yep. So that
Okay.
one is
I see it.
$441.94 a month. So that is just for managing our firewall.
Okay.
And
How come that one's like a month and the other one is a year?
which one?
It's
This
a
one,
month,
the one you just said, it's monthly.
they're both monthly.
Yeah, everything is like quoted monthly.
Yeah, but see how this one has the yearly?
Right, but there's also a monthly fee.
Yeah.
So it's just quoted a little bit differently, but you can break it down like on a monthly basis. So that's the base plus the firewall, and then the next one up is the Microsoft services. So, you know, we're a Microsoft Office you know, environment. So, you know, anything from Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, you know, they're all like subscription fee based now. So there's a fee involved with that, you know, email as well. So, you know, that ends up being, you know, $13,524 just the Microsoft environment that we're in.
Okay.
And then the final one is, what do they call it? Endpoint,
EDR.
the EDR, the endpoint detection and response. So that has a lot to do with, you know, virus protection, you know, security related aspects of IT. So that's all part of that as well, and that's.
So this was reviewed by Adam.
These are his guardian's terms, so I would need to you know include Adam's
Because I see
terms.
they took this out.
So I would need to include Adam's terms, you know, with this to.
In particular for the virtual IT services, I would, for sure.
Okay.
The ones, the Microsoft bundles, those are pretty much standard, but the IT service, I think for sure, that needs to be run by.
Okay. I'll, yeah, and Adam has a standard form for whether it's goods or services, so it's pretty boilerplate stuff. So we kind of populate that, include the statement of work that Guardian has, and that package should be, you know, sufficient for Adam. So I'll make sure that's included.
So I get a total of 122,664. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
For all of these?
Mhm.
Okay.
Further discussion?
No.
And I have none other than what's already been said. And roll call,
Veronica Cal, yes.
and Laura Schiffern, yes. 4.6, update to emergency funds policy, first reading.
All right, I did want to make one change. The Abram French committee reviewed and got back to me this morning. And so two things. One is on number 3, they would like it to be either or. The what I'm calling the liaison, but I think we should change that to participant, as a participant.
From the select board?
Uh-huh. on the emergency assistance program. So let me just back up and say that this is needed because we no longer have a community services
Yeah, that's
coordinator. And so, what we did is go through and change, where there was a community services coordinator previously to select board member, or select board representative, or select board administrative assistant in order to get the same work done. So let me go ahead and read it. I am going to change where it says liaison to participant, because liaison means something in the liaison policy, which this is not. You know, you are actually on the committee.
Okay.
That makes a determination. You are not a liaison, someone who doesn't participate. So this is
Then should it just be member? Select
a
board
participant in the, I'm gonna go with participant. All right, so let me just go to the top and you can tell me if it makes sense. Townsend Emergency Assistance Fund policies. Policy. This is policy number 05-2023, which replaced policy number 2014-01. So this is an amendment to policy 05-2023. Townsend Emergency Assistance Funds Policy. Purpose. The town holds several trust funds, the proceeds of which are to aid the town's needy. Residents facing financial hardship may apply to the town for assistance from such emergency assistance funds, formerly termed worthy funds. Requests for assistance shall be administered in accordance with the administration process outlined here. Administration process, number 1, this is an addition. The select board will assign annually a select board member to serve as participant on the emergency assistance program. Number 2, applicants are referred to the emergency assistance program by the select board, administrative assistant, or other public entity. Number 3, an assignee by the select board emergency assistant participant. No, this is what I want to change. The select board emergency assistance program participant or a member of the Abram S. French Committee will conduct an application interview with the resident. Previously, it had been the community services coordinator or an assignee by the community services coordinator. So now it's the select board emergency assistance program participant or a member of the Abram S. French Committee will conduct an application interview with the resident. A, this should be completed either in person with the applicant or over the phone. Those conducting the assistance funds interview should complete the form during the interview. B, during the interview, as much information as possible is collected to help build the narrative for the applicant's needs. And number C, the completed interview sheet is submitted to the select board administrative assistant. Number 4, applicants will receive a hard copy of the emergency assistance funding request form following the application interview. A, applicants need to provide all the information listed on the request. B, all materials should be submitted to the select board administrative assistant. C, the select board administrative assistant will create a confidential file for the applicant, including all materials. 5, after the confidential applicant file has been completed, an emergency assistance program meeting will be coordinated by the select board administrative assistant, and the applicant request will be reviewed, discussed, and put to a vote. This meeting must include A, the select board emergency fund participant, B, one member of the Abram S. French Fund Committee, C, the town administrator or a designee, and D, if this committee approves the request by majority vote in full or in part, it shall identify the fund from which the disbursement will be made and it shall cause a warrant to be processed for payment. 6, the select board administrative assistant will complete the warrant and submit it to the accountant's office. A, the town accountant will need in the warrant an original copy of the bill to be paid out for the applicant. And B, the select board administrative assistant will receive a copy of the bill and sign the warrant to complete the submission process. 6, once the warrant has been processed, the assignee by the select board participant from the, no, I have to change this. Once the warrant has been processed, either, I should just say, the person who conducted the interview will perform a follow-up with the applicant.
Sabrina has her hand up.
Yes,
The warrant signature is usually the town administrator.
okay, yeah, the select board administration assistant will receive a copy of the bill and the town administrator, you're right. And the TA will sign the warrant to complete the submission process. 6, once the warrant has been processed, the person who conducted the interview will perform a follow-up with the applicant. So what was pointed out to me was it's possible that the person from the Abram French committee may not be available. They could be on vacation. There might be somebody who can't conduct it. So that's why they requested that either the select board participant, that someone else besides them be included in the stream of people that could conduct the interview. So that's why I changed that to the participant.
And,
So-
and technically that is number 7. You have 2 number 6s.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that is number 7. All right, so we'll need to make those edits when we accept the changes. The attachment A, which is the interview request form, did not need to be changed. It stays as is. And attachment B or attachment 2, the emergency funds funding request, this is the form that gets sent in number 4. The only thing we needed to change was the wording Board of Selectmen to Select Board. We have to update all our policies to do that. So we'll just do them as we're making those, changes. And eventually we'll get them all done, or we'll do a blast through and change all Board of Selectmen to Select Board. So that is the first reading of the policy amendment.
Very good. So the second reading will be updated with everything today.
Yeah,
And
well,
also all the titles and all will be changed.
yeah,
The new letterhead.
new
New
letterhead.
letterhead, everything. for the second
everything.
reading.
So are we replacing the policy, or are we amending the policy? I guess that's the next question. Should we just replace the policy?
There were a lot of amendments.
Yeah, and make this, I don't know if there have been other policies this year in 2025,
No.
then it would be number 01, 2025. Because it's the first one this
For
month,
2025.
or for this year, yeah. Okay, so not amended,
We've
just
had,
replace.
We've had other readings. We did but they were amendments.
The constable,
Public, in the constable and and we didn't get rid of that, it was just amended.
amended. This one, we're really replacing it, because we even added one number.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll call it number 01, 2025, but maybe check that, Sabrina, and see what we did with the constable as far as numbering went. So we're
And then with the
replacing
public records
policy.
request. Was that it? This is the third one this year?
We
Policy
didn't
that we're
do
doing
the
with?
public records policy. We haven't done that yet. We haven't finished that.
No, it's not finished, but we did start
We did,
policy change. Okay,
yeah. So maybe this becomes 03. I don't know.
okay.
Um,
I believe there were amendments, the other two.
the other two
There
were
were new
amendments.
numberings, yeah. but
Okay,
If it's a replacement, it would be November.
okay. I'll give you this, Sabrina, because I,
I did that online too, so she had it. in this.
okay.
Um,
So I think that's all we have to do for that,
so this is
correct?
just part of what was before. All right. If there's nothing else. well,
Do we need, we don't need to
There was
do,
no motion.
No
Okay, first
motion.
reading is over. When are we doing the second reading?
we can do it next week if you want.
Okay,
Up to you.
that's fine.
And then we'll do the motion after the second reading.
Okay, yes. Open 7, discussion of ARPA funding and HR manager position. Hi, Callie. I received some correspondence. I guess in reference to a remark that I made. It was in response to a remark that somebody else made. So, I have to do with, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna read this first and then you can speak to it. Or speak to, okay. Because one of the things I did was I pulled your report in 2024 to kind of get a review of what we have here going in town. But anyway, I received a email today with a letter dated April 1st to myself as chair of the Townsend Selectboard. And so dear Chair Schifrin, and writing regarding your recent statement, Thursday, March 27th, 2025, where you asserted, and it's a quote, I'm not quite sure when this was, because I can't remember yesterday, but our HR person can't be combined with the high school. They are two different entities with different needs. That was my quote. As I understand the topic of human resources, this is not me. The quote was just what I read. HR is scheduled for discussion on the Board of Selectmen's agenda today. Therefore, my letter is timely and you should be able to address this during your discussion. Given the significance of this issue, its potential impact on the structure and efficiency of town operations and the long-term budget implications, I respectfully request that you clarify the basis for your statement. Specifically, I ask that you provide, 1, any statutory, regulatory, or policy references, whether local, state, or federal, that prohibit or otherwise preclude the sharing of HR functions between municipal entities, including town and the schools. 2, any factual, legal, or operational rationale supporting the assertion that these HR functions cannot be combined beyond generalized statements about the entity's differing needs. 3, documentation or precedent demonstrating that such an arrangement would violate legal, contractual, or governance requirements. 4, evidence of other steps to mitigate the budget impacts of the continuation of the HR position. I'm going to go back and read the one sentence that I made. Our HR person can't be combined with the high school. There are two different entities with different needs. I didn't say it was against the law. I didn't say that there was any regulations against it. I don't know of any that are. What I do know is that the human resource person has been of great assistance to the town. Granted, it was under the ARPA funds. What I do know is that there is HR at the high school for the 3 districts,
3 towns.
3 towns, so for the 3 towns. And the other 2 towns do not have their employees in that calculation. They have HR people. I don't know about Ashby, but Pepple has their own full-time HR person for their town, running the town.
Correct.
Versus the high school. So they are not intertwined. This is an important discussion, not only for the select board, but for taxpayers and residents of Townsend who deserve transparency and fact-based rationale when structural decisions are made. I believe we're doing that. I could be wrong. I think that that's what we're trying to accomplish. I respectfully request that you respond to this inquiry both in writing and provide clarification verbally during today's meeting so that the discussion can be informed by facts, legal framework, and best practices in municipal operations. I do not know of having this situation occur which may end up costing us something. Anyway, they're not going to do it for nothing. How this situation, number one, again, I know of nothing illegal about it. I'm just saying that I don't believe it's going to be a fair situation and that it's still going to cost us money. I believe that my statements here on YouTube will be exactly what I feel, and hopefully that is enough so that I do not have to put it in writing. And hopefully thank you for your attention to this request. I look forward to your detailed response. Regards, Kim Craven. So those are my statements. And Veronica, did you want to say something before Callie?
I will just say that Kim was at I attended the finance committee meeting a week ago, I guess it was. And Kim Craven had attended that meeting, and one of the things that she had said was that the school could provide it. And my response to that was, I had seen nothing from the schools where they were offering to provide those services to the town. I will say that, well, I guess I'll just go on.
And
we're
I think
sticking
Nelson
to this letter.
Yeah, well, I think Nelson has also reached out to
Yeah,
the school.
I reached out to Brad Morgan, as well as the HR director over there. I only recently did it, so I don't have any concrete facts to present to the select board in terms of whether this arrangement is feasible or not. Their HR department is only 2 people, so I don't know from a workload perspective if they could take on all of our HR responsibilities and still do it with the 2 people they have. Once you add another body, at that point, you're not really saving any money. So why even bother going down that route? And I thought about something earlier today, which was those 2 HR individuals, they're paid for by the school budget, which means Ashby and Pepperell are also paying for those individuals' salaries. So if suddenly Townsend were to offload our HR responsibilities onto these individuals, wouldn't Ashby or Pepperell come back and say, you've just received more services, so we're going to ask for a reduction in our assessment, and that would in turn increase Townsend's school assessment. So again, I'm not sure what kind of savings would be had in farming out our HR, to the school district HR office. So those are a lot of things to sort of take into consideration. I'll certainly continue to have the conversation with the school district to see if it's possible, and if it is, does it mean an additional person they need to hire, or maybe a part-time person, as well as if Townsend's school assessment is going to go up because now we are utilizing these services that they were not providing before. So I feel like, at that point, we probably would have the full picture, and we can, go from there. But, Callie will speak in a few minutes, about, what she brings to the table and sort of the services and skill sets that she provides that, a lot of us here at Town Hall simply don't have. There's a lot of blind spots that we might not be aware of if this position were to go away, and I'm not in favor of it going away in any shape or form. So, with that said, I'll sort of let Callie have the floor, and she can speak more on,
Veronica, did you have anything else you wanted to say before?
Let's let Callie
Okay.
talk, and I may, it depends on.
Okay. Hi, Callie.
Hi, good evening, everyone in the room and everyone signing in virtually, as am I. My name is Callie Huff. I am the HR manager for the Town of Townsend Municipal Departments. I was invited to this meeting in response to the letter, which they were just discussing from Kim Craven, within which there are 4 inquiries. And first of all, I want to say that I do appreciate all the work that Kim does for the town. And obviously, we all want full transparency. And I know that's simply what she's after here. She wants some information to make better decisions, and we can all appreciate that. So my first, I think, reaction to the letter, because it was written to the select board just today, and the inquiries within the letter all appear to me to be sort of operational in nature, which I think would fall under the judgment and just under the judgment of the TA, along with the select board, neither of which are equipped to answer the questions within the inquiry on such short notice. And it was my day off, so I didn't have time to really take a look at all of it. I will say that off the cuff, I do not know of any particular legal reasons why they couldn't. I'm not saying there aren't some. I mean, obviously this should be explored. But my first reaction to this is that perhaps the best idea would be, since there won't be decisions formed as a result of gathering this information now, and because it's all very important that we get adequate information to Kim and all of the voters out there, and accurate information, that maybe Kim and I take this conversation offline. I'm more than happy to answer all of those questions once I have time to really disseminate all of the elements within each of those 4 inquiries. Also, to discuss all the essential functions of my role. Now, to answer the question as far as can the HR manager from the school district assume the responsibilities of the municipal employees? Maybe. I don't know. But I think my question to that would be whether or not, when approached as to whether she would be willing to do that if she were given accurate information. There is some misleading information being circulated out there online and through a particular website where the facts are just they're a little bit misleading. Well, some of them are a lot misleading. For example, I'll give you one. I'm not here to defend my job, and thank you, Nelson, for giving me an opportunity to explain everything I do for the town. But it's just, this meeting would it would get too long. But I question whether or not the school realizes or district realizes or the person in charge there realizes that we have 245 employees and not 40 as is stated out there online within social media and the website. Now you might think part-time employees don't matter. I mean, that's a horrible thing to think. Of course, everyone here matters. But from an HR standpoint, my point is only that they require the same amount of work. They require, I mean, for recruiting, it's often harder to recruit someone for part-time work. You have to vet them just as you vet a full-time employee. You have to onboard them, same amount of work there, except for health insurance or like life insurance. That's basically the only difference there. They have workplace injuries. They have complaints about other employees. They have to request ADA accommodations. If they're part-time, they wouldn't qualify for FMLA, but we still go through the exercise of doing that analysis. I mean, and then they offboard the same way. So we don't have 40 employees. And even if we had 40 full-time employees, which actually we have 76, so it's inaccurate anyway. I would like to know whether or not that individual is aware of that. And if so, God bless her if she can take on 245 more employees. And like I said, I'm not saying that she couldn't. Perhaps she can. And legally, I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions that you're asking, Kim.
Yeah, so Kelly, that was sort of to my point earlier, which was, there's only 2 people in the school district doing HR functions at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Can they realistically take on all these, 200 plus employees of varying status and, and whether they're on call, per diem, part-time, full-time, fractional, that's over, seasonal, that's over 200 plus employees. Can they do that with 2 people? And,
the answer is no in most circumstances.
And, and if they can't, how many more people do they need to hire to accommodate that workload? Is it half a person? Is it 3/4 of a person? Is it 1 or even more people? And those are the conversations, like I said, I'll have with the school district. I'm more than willing to have those conversations. But these are just like questions we're thinking out loud. And, I think as we dive deeper, we're probably going to find out that it's not as simple as handing it off to the school district and,
well, let me answer that question for you, actually. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have somebody who's needing something, so I'm going to, but let me answer that question from how I can answer it from my perspective. So generally speaking, the ratio to HR professionals to number of employees is somewhere between 1.5 is the low end and 2.7, which I think is excessive. I don't think you should need 2.7 in a world where so many things are automated, but even 1.5 would feel low. We have 245 employees and you have me, I'm 1, and our ratio is 0.41. And those other communities that are at the 1.5 ratio, the minimum 1.5 ratio, are outsourcing things like COBRA, FMLA, ADA accommodations, things of that nature, open enrollments, things like that. Whereas we actually do every single one of those things in-house. There isn't one thing that we outsource, and that's to save the town money. In fact, we were outsourcing some things when I came, and I said, I can do it, So there's a lot, and we do it all manually too. So they probably have HRIS system, I would imagine, so that would make life easier. But even with that program, if they have 2 employees, and I don't know how many employees are in the school district, do you know? I mean, I could do a quick calculation, but I think you're getting my point. The answer is probably no. I don't think they could do it well, I guess. And you could probably do it, but the problem with HR, not doing HR well, is that you might as well not do it at all then. If you're not doing it fully, then you're leaving yourself at risk. It's one of the areas of any institution or local government that is very high risk. You have legal suits, you have fines. I mean, HR is not about, we do employee wellness programs and all that stuff when we try to put the smiles on people's faces and keep the morale up and all that stuff. But that's about maybe like 8% of what we do. The rest of it is negotiating with service providers and union negotiations and, addressing up to 30 labor laws and avoiding penalties, regulatory penalties for not following certain procedures, during workplace injuries. And I mean, the list goes on and on. Like I said, I don't want to have to list everything that I do here today. But as I had already at least pointed out, one piece of misleading information, that being the number of employees, I might as well go ahead and address a few others. Can I have the floor to address perhaps a few other pieces of information I believe should be corrected for the record?
Please.
Okay, so another thing, and I think, Laura, you addressed this too, about not that other towns don't have HR managers when in fact they do. Groton does, as you said, Pepperell does. And because Ashby or Dunstable don't have HR managers, I mean, they're not our peer group. We have nearly 10,000 residents, 245 employees. It's just, they could probably benefit, maybe not them because they're not next to each other, but some towns like that could benefit from regionalizing HR or having a fractional HR person come on occasion or something like that. But it's not apples to oranges. So that's just not a fair assessment. Another rumor or myth circulating is that we've never had HR here before. And so why do we need it now? I love that answer, though, the whole "this is not the way we always did it" thing. But in fact, they did have an HR person, and I'm not referring to the person who, her name was Carol, and she was, she was straddled with doing all kinds of things. She has so many things going on, and I'm amazed that she took it all on, really. But I mean, we're talking about just pure HR, they did have someone do HR before. So that's also a myth. I think that was 2000. I forget. I was talking to Jody. I believe she knows her name. Let's see. Other departments do HR. Another myth circulating out there that the departments do their own HR. That simply isn't the case. The departments do interviewing, which of course is, I would not take that for, I don't know what a water technician does or, what would be required of that position. Of course, they're involved in the interviewing process. And, but that's about it. I mean, even their candidate selection notes and everything come to HR because we keep all of that in the event someone comes back and says, hey, that's not fair, age discrimination, or I had, certification this person didn't, and it was required of the job. Like, so from the very beginning, from recruiting to presenting the documentation to onboarding them, vetting them, bringing them, all that stuff is HR. The departments do not do HR. They interview candidates. Another myth circulating, we don't need HR. Well, okay. I mean, that's kind of like the top tier umbrella here that encompasses maybe all of this discussion. But, so, okay, let's say hypothetically, we don't need HR then. Who will do the COBRA, FMLA, ADA, OSHA, the union negotiation? I mean, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Adhere to all of these compliance and regulatory laws and acts. I don't you can't really break this stuff up because there's a lot of tracking and reporting that is involved in these things. And nobody has time, frankly. That's my daughter sneaking by under a blanket because I told her I would be on the meeting. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, another myth. Other towns don't have HR. We already addressed that. Yeah, we already kind of addressed that. Okay, we can outsource HR. Oh yeah, you can. Sure, go ahead, but that's going to cost you far more than my salary at the town. Another myth I've heard: HR makes too much money. Well, that I'm not even going to address that. I work for the town for other reasons, but I can tell you, I get paid less than my counterparts elsewhere, but I don't mind that because I'm doing it. It's a labor of love. It's convenient for me. It's not an issue, but if I let me digress. Okay, and then the question I think of today is whether HR can be done by the school district. Like I said, I don't know the legal answer to that. I don't know if the information they were fed led them to agree to that because perhaps that information was inaccurate. I would like for them to confirm whether they think that 245 more employees would be adequately managed by HR by two individuals there plus the employees at the school. Again, not saying they can't do it, just saying it would be nearly impossible to do all of it right. That's the flat out truth. And I'm certain if she's worked in HR for as long as I have, that she would agree with that. But, as far as the other essential functions of my role, like I said, I respect Kim for attempting to get the truth out there. I just want to make sure our truths are the same, and I have the information she needs. I have invited her to lunch. Actually, I'm waiting for her reply. Last week, I invited her to lunch because a lot of this discussion can be had offline. And I think that is all that I have to contribute at this point, unless someone has questions.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Veronica?
I guess all I'll say is that the reasons for HR is it provides consistency of services for the employees for all of the things that Kelly mentioned, whether it's FMLA, injury on duty, onboarding. It is all consistent, and department heads have a place when a new person comes, that person goes to Cali to be onboarded. It is consistent across the board, and it protects the town from any liability. I know, I know that there were instances in the past where town employees have come, and there are things in annual meetings where I don't have my life insurance wasn't paid, and asking for the town to please pony up the money for their life insurance because for whatever reason the town hadn't paid it, for longevity that they never received, for other health insurance, or I think the most recent one that I remember was someone's 401k or pension hadn't been paid for by the town. And the idea behind this was that the town did budget for HR services. I might have said that the years wrong at the FinCom meeting, but it was probably 2019 and 2020, or it could have been 2020, 2021. Those services were never hired and the money was never spent. And one of the uses of ARPA funds was to backfill for the town things that you would have liked to have had that you couldn't afford. And HR was that. And I will say that at this point, the town is solid as far as making sure that people's benefits are in play, that the payroll folks do have things coming out as they should, There have been no complaints that I know of. Of course, I haven't been here I had a gap of almost 2 years, year and a half. So I don't know what happened in that frame, but I haven't heard anything from November forward. And prior to that, there were other things, earlier that were of concern. So everything is administered as it should be. As far as negotiating for rates for health insurance, the town paid a consultant for the first 2 years anyway that I was a selectman, and the third year there was an ask for the consultant to be paid at the tune of $10,000 a year. The company was NFS, and so the healthcare piece wasn't done in-house. It was contracted out. So there are things like that where we are saving money, and I can pretty much guarantee that if we were to transfer or somehow merge HR with the schools, there would be a charge for that. It wouldn't be.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't be a seamless, we volunteer to do the municipality's HR. So I am very glad that we have had the ARPA funds to fund this position, and I look forward to it being continued. I will say that the FinCom recommended that this not be continued, that the select board not fund this position. And I just find that not funding this position will open us up to greater problems, and I would love to see a way to fund it going forward in fiscal year 27. So I'm hopeful that the efforts for the schools to be funded equitably with other towns in the state of Massachusetts will come to fruition, and we will have more funds available to us in FY27.
Okay, having heard some of that, perhaps, Nelson, you could look back a few years and see with those examples that we're giving, what in fact it did cost us because we didn't have somebody in that position. That's a good talking point.
May I add one more thing? I'm sorry. I forgot to address something. May I add something?
Go ahead.
In regard to them being sort of different functions between the school district and the municipal departments, I mean, that's nothing that someone couldn't be trained on, but there are stark differences. So the more people you have, more employees you have, I mean, if you have a low ratio to HR to employees, things start to get generalized. And like police and fire have specific requirements. Like just to give you one example, there are many of them, but and highway too. Let's say a highway truck driver runs into something. God forbid, we hope that does not ever happen. But should they have run into something and there was a question about liability, or there was property damage or something somebody put in a claim, if there's a police report, which there would likely be in that case, then that person has to go get a drug and alcohol screening within a certain number of hours, after that incident. That's just an example of one thing that I don't think the school department would probably have to deal with, unless they do so for the bus drivers. I don't know. I think D bus system probably does all of that, but and there are many more. Again, not something they couldn't eventually learn, but it's different. Thank you.
Could I add a couple other things? Let's just say it did go to the school district. That individual would be probably over at the central office. There will be no presence here at town hall for any employees if they have any questions or concerns. I mean, yeah, you could probably pick up the phone or send an email, but to have someone here to provide that service, that's, at the end of the day, that's very important, I feel, to have a presence here. And the second point I want to make is, you know, if we didn't end up using the schools and, you know, the position was, you know, unfunded, people here in town hall would have to take that on. And, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, I don't think most people have that skill set to do it. So those are blind spots that we would have, you know. We would certainly do our best to do the job right, but, you know, all it takes is one mistake, you know, certainly not on purpose or out of malice, you know, just a honest mistake that you make or you overlook, or a form isn't filled out properly. You know, that opens you up for all kinds of liability, you know. Could be a grievance, a complaint, could be a lawsuit, you know. So, you know, it really opens you up to a world of unknowns that can really hurting the town. So I'm absolutely not in favor of the position going away or being unfunded. You know, I think it's a vital function that we need to continue to have.
Okay, then. Anybody else?
Thank you, Callie.
Yes, thank you for
Thank you,
joining us,
Cal.
Callie. Appreciate
My
your
pleasure.
information.
Good night, everyone. I'm going to sign off now. Good night.
Right.
So now we're up on 4.8 regarding setup, organization, advertising, presentation on April 16th. Dave is joining us. You want to start, Dave? Because you had some concerns or questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. About April 16th at the high school.
I don't have any questions other than what are you guys looking for that night that TCAM would be able to assist or, you know, help you with? I mean, what are you looking to do? Do you want to broadcast this live? Do you want to just record it and play it back the next day? Or how do you want to handle this? You know, what's your vision for what you want to do?
How is it going to work if we do want it live? And because they don't have any equipment there.
Correct. TCAM would end up talking to Pepperell, PCM, Pepperell Community Media. They've got the equipment that they could bring in to assist us with for doing it live, but it would entail basically us renting their crew and their equipment to set it up, and then the signal would end up having to be shot down to Pepperell's station, and then from Pepperell sent up to Townsend in order for us to show it live on Channel 9 here in Townsend.
What are we talking about for cost, do you think?
We don't know yet because I talked to the guys from Pepperell last week. They need to talk to their executive director and their board of directors to set up how we would go about doing that. Basically, temporarily hiring their manpower and renting their equipment in order for us to do that. That would be the middle end or middle part of that would be is that we still bring in Pepperell to help us record the whole event, but we don't go live with it. Or number 3, we don't use Pepperell at all. And that with the equipment we have, like you've seen at town meetings, we just simply record the proceedings that night, process the video, and then get it out to the public on YouTube and Channel 9 within a day or so after the event.
May I ask, do you recall the November meeting there?
School committee.
The school committee budget.
That was pretty bad.
that was, recorded and so was that using the school's, staffing and equipment? Was that Pepperell or do you know how
Yeah,
that was?
Yeah, I believe that was Pepple. That budget seminar webinar that they did was actually a Zoom webinar that they hosted and recorded, and then gave us a copy of that for us to be able to post on our equipment. Again, after the fact, it wasn't. It was live, but only because it was being sent down to Pepperell and then from there up to us afterwards.
Can I ask a question more?
Yeah.
Dave, what I liked about that, the budget talk that the school committee did with the town administrators was the microphones that were in each aisle that people could line up. I think I would, John Barrett is going to be moderating this, but I would like to have people who have questions be able to come up to those mics like they did and line up and ask their questions so that we can get the questions from all the people that have them, not just, pointing out, okay, you. Just so do you have the ability to put mics like that in the two aisles so that people can come down and ask their questions?
Yeah. And I'll take it back what I just said. I got confused because there was another school committee budget thing. The one that was hosted by the gentleman from Stoughton or whatever, the TA from somewhere down.
Yeah, from far away.
That one was entirely Pepperell. They had all their equipment set up in order to send it live. That was not a Zoom session. I thought you meant the more recent one that they just did.
The end of February. No, I mean the one from November.
Yeah, the one you saw in November, we would definitely, if we wanted to reproduce that, we would have to have Pepperell PEG access directly involved in order to do that. Yes, putting two microphones, one in each aisle, and having people go up to the microphone would be very easy to do. That would be no problem.
I don't have to have it live, but I do want it recorded. Recording it is fine. If it's not live, that's fine too. People who can be there live will be there. I think the other people will watch it after the fact. So I would want the recording to be available as soon as possible after the meeting. To me, it's the two microphones so that everybody who wants to ask a question can ask a question.
Okay, so this is not the school budget, which was done at the high school, which was Ashby, Townsend, Pepperell, right?
Yes, and we are doing it at the high school.
And why are we doing it there if this is just the Townsend budget?
Because you can get in and out of the door if you're handicapped, because there is enough parking for everybody who wants to be there, because the acoustics are better than the acoustics in the hall. And because I really want everybody to be able to understand why we are asking for the funds we're asking for from the town.
The capacity in that room is much greater. I think that auditorium holds 600 plus. Whereas the Great Hall is only maybe 400, little over, little under. So you'd be able to fit a lot more people in, and I'm sure this event will attract a lot of people's interest, and they'll show up.
The school meeting.
It was pretty busy. It was packed, really. I mean, not every seat was taken. It wasn't.
People there?
Pardon me?
You think there were 600 people?
No, there weren't 600, but there were a good number of people. It was 3 towns. And there were a good number of people.
Yeah, but this is only going to be Townsend. So do you think that there's going to be 400 people from Townsend that are going to go to the high school?
I have no idea, but I know that it's easier for people to park and get into the high school.
What about the senior center?
It's not very big at all.
The meeting rooms at the senior center maybe hold like 125 maximum.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Okay, I just wanted to put it out there.
Yep, no, understood.
What, Dave?
I just said, no, understood. The more questions asked, the more things that we realize, okay, we
You know,
can't
while
do
we're
this, we
there,
can't
hopefully
do.
they're all coming out.
Yeah.
To ask their questions.
And Dave, we've been talking about enlisting Pepperell's help. Do we need to talk to the AV guys over at the high school? Because I think when I submitted the request to book that auditorium, there is some amount of setup that the internal staff there need to do. They'll do it ahead of time, but I just wanted to make sure that we're kind of looping them in as well in terms of our needs and, what they can assist us with.
Yes, the one thing like Veronica pointed out, the sound system they have in there is a full-blown integrated sound system that they use for plays and musical productions. It's like a 24-channel mixing board. So yes, they usually, if something's needed for that, they usually run that. They usually provide a person. However, I don't know if that ends up getting paid for by the organization that's hosting the event, or I don't know. So yes, you'll want to contact the school and talk to them. If we bring Pepperell in to help with the filming and maybe going live and all of that, they usually end up calling in staff members at the school in order to provide proper sound. They have all the equipment. We just plug into their internal system.
Are you able to interface directly with the AV person over at the high school? Do you need me to make introductions? How do you want to handle that?
Well, that'll depend on if we do bring Pepperell in to assist, with this. They've already got the connections and introductions. They know who they would need to talk to. Otherwise, if we don't bring Pepperell in as part of this joint operation, then yes, I would need to get the names and numbers of people to talk to from their AV group that would set up equipment down there.
Okay, let's work offline over the next couple days to figure out how we want to proceed so we can work with the right people on this.
Okay, yeah. Let me know what's good for you. I can contact one or more of the guys down in Pepperell and we can all interface, and based on what they know, what you want, we can piece something together for a good plan.
So I think going live might be nice to have, but not actually necessary. So that probably would save us a little bit of difficulty, right, in getting this up and running.
Yeah, the big thing is it would be the same. It would be the same setup, whether we were to go live or not. The only difference would, as far as what cameras and equipment Pepperell would have to use, the only difference would be is making sure that we interface between Townsend and Pepperell to go live, which if everything else is in place and there's no other troubles, unforeseen circumstances, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch beyond adding the let's go live. But again, we can talk offline with Pepperell and they can point out any potential pitfalls that we might need to deal with that night on all the different scenarios we can offer.
So Dave, are you saying that we need Pepperell either way and we would have to pay them?
Well, we wouldn't need them either way, but if we were to decide, let's go live, the setup that they would put up would be the same as if we didn't go live. So it's like the going live part wouldn't be that much more steps above having them assist us with the setup down there, as opposed to what we're capable of doing on our own down there.
So are you recommending that you need them in order to set up to hold this meeting, whether we go live or not?
Not quite, no. If we're not gonna go live, if that's determined right at the beginning that we're not even gonna try to go live, we could probably, TCAM could probably do a setup down there that would be adequate. If we were to go live, then yes, it would mean having to have Pepperell come in and do the whole 9 yards setup in order to go live.
I am good with recording, as long as we have the 2 microphones and we get a decent recording that has sound that people can hear when they watch it at home.
Later on, after, you know.
So having
Yeah.
it there because their sound would be better.
Better. Exactly.
We would definitely need the North Middlesex people that would be running the sound system.
Okay.
But
So
those, that's offered to us, right? Or are we paying for that?
I don't know. So that would be something that talking with Nelson and Pepperell and us, we can all sit down and see what I can express to them what we're looking to do. And then we can be told, yeah, we can do this, we can do that, we can do the other thing. And you'd need to have an NMRS technician there to do their part. And the rest of it we can iron out. But yeah,
Okay.
We need to know.
I'm
all
sorry
that.
it's so confusing, Laurie, but yeah, we can do anything. And if it costs money, as long as we can pay for it, we can do everything. So,
Well, we need to know what that is before we say, yes, we're gonna pay for it.
exactly. So,
But you're settled on the location and the date and the time.
Yep.
And TCAM. So it's just a matter if it's gonna cost us anything else.
Yep.
Okay.
Good news is it's FY25 and not FY26.
Because we still have some peanuts left?
Yes.
Not much.
Not
Not
much.
much, but some.
Okay,
Can we talk about the slides?
the what?
Oh, yeah, I think you had, like a rough framework of what it would look like. We haven't even developed one yet, but we certainly have time and we'll, in the coming days,
We have about 2 weeks from
Yep.
tomorrow.
Yep.
And so I have a rough outline of what it'll look like. But what I want to know is, would it be possible to ask each of the department heads if they're willing to put one slide at least to talk to for their department?
I can ask that, see if they're willing to, put something together.
If they don't want to present,
They don't-
we could present.
Yeah.
You know, if they provided us with a slide, we could present.
Yeah. And would they sort of be presenting or illustrating the services that they provide
What
to
they
the
can
town?
provide, yeah,
Okay.
and without the override, what they anticipate not being able to provide.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because there will be cuts and they're gonna know that night.
This is what we provide, this is where we cut back in order to even have the override, I don't know, I think it would be good to have.
The
each
override doesn't
department
give us
speak.
everything we wanted, anyway. The override is still with cuts.
Yes,
Yeah, the
Except,
yeah,
cuts, the
the
expenses would, correct.
right,
And, and the departments have done a great job
Yeah.
of looking through all their expenses and, and making those cuts to expenses to get us to the level we're at now, which is greatly appreciated because, if it wasn't for those cuts, that override amount would be, higher and, the higher it gets, the less, likely it would actually pass. So,
Well, ultimately too, we will be meeting with finance again. We will meet jointly
Probably next week, I think, because I think they meet on
Thursday. this week.
Thursday. So I think, it takes us 48 hours to post, so I think realistically, the earliest we could probably meet is Wednesday or Thursday of next week. But, we certainly have time to get together and iron out some of the differences that, we might have. On how
Well, have they come up with, a plan, if we don't get the override? Finance.
Oh, no, they're not. No, they don't have a plan.
Well, they need a plan to tell everyone what
They're
will
waiting.
happen.
This is me talking.
Okay.
What I see is that because it is true in the budget process, we provide the budget. Before town meeting, they look at it and recommend. That I have not seen anything proactive as far as what the budget would look like if there were no override. What would a balanced budget look like with no override? I haven't seen anything from them on that.
Well, isn't that their responsibility though, too? If they make recommendations?
They make recommendations on, the budget is the selectmen's budget. So, and certainly we were working together.
Yes, we were.
We were, the parameters changed at the special town meeting, and so we had to look at different things than what we had been looking at. And so they reviewed the budget with this, the 625 override ask last week. I don't know what they're doing on Thursday. I really don't.
I'm not sure either, but it's more likely than not just continuing the conversation. But to what end, I don't know. I haven't seen.
So they didn't come out recommending the 625 override.
They wanted, I was going to cover this in the liaison reports. I can do it now if you want me to. They had recommended that we cut the HR position. They had recommended that we select the trash contract that is pay as you throw with the tipping fees, which is the one that we put in the budget. We haven't voted on anything yet, but we have to wait and see what the override is. So the one that we selected as the most cost effective is the one that they recommend. But what they want us to do is, instead of the 300K, raise the prices for the bags to $6 for the big bags, the ones that are now $3.50 to $6 a piece, and the smaller bags that are $2.25 to $5. I believe is what I heard.
So they did calculations as to how much they'd have to sell to get what they need to get?
Well,
is that presented?
Not Dawn mucked around a bit with cells. And it's just that there's a point of, as Irene I'm sorry, she was saying right where you were, Jody, in the March 11th meeting. If you watch the Board of Health March 11th meeting, starting at 17 minutes for about 45 minutes, you can see the whole trash discussion that we had joint with Board of Health, and Mr. Shaw was here and Irene was here talking about the bags. There's a point of diminishing returns. Well, if you start to charge too much for the bags, people will just go and contract their own, which is fine. However, if town trash pickup is going to work, we really need as much buy-in as we can.
Sure.
For it to be possible.
Yeah, so at the $6 and $5 proposed pricing, at that point, you're gonna see, hundreds of households go private. And at that point, I don't think there's any
Maybe it was
hope.
5 and 4. Could have been 5 and 4, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's the same
We couldn't
deal.
possibly afford that, the trash contract, anymore. You know, certainly, we can afford it even less than what we currently are able to now, because the purple bag revenue doesn't cover the entire trash contract. And if you increase the prices to the levels, that are being proposed, you know, I think, your revenue is gonna drop significantly.
Yeah.
So at that point, there's, you shouldn't have raised, the bags, those prices to begin with. So,
Right.
I think it's unfortunately a non-starter. I can see why you would want to do that, but, it just doesn't make any sense at that.
So they're not
Looking
understanding
for my
that
details.
they're really, most of the people are not gonna be paying, there'll be some people who pay less than what their taxes are going to be for the year increased. And some people will end up paying more for the trash than what it would have cost them to just pay the override.
Correct.
For their homes.
Yeah, and, you know, I think we've already thrown out some of those numbers, and we certainly reiterated, certainly at the April 16th public forum, as well as other meetings. You know, the tax override at the moment, you know, it equates to, for an average, you know, single-family household, you know, $182, I think, a year.
Yeah,
That works out to $15 a month.
Right,
So,
and most people pay $400 to $600 to $700 a year.
for private trash.
for trash.
Correct.
Yeah, because you have to pay monthly, they're not gonna give it to you for a month or once a quarter, or just pick up once in 6 months, that doesn't happen.
The talking point is the compounding of the 600K for the override. That's the talking point. But the thing is, if you're going private trash, that same compounding
It's gonna
is
work.
going to happen.
Right,
And trash will only get more expensive
Right.
as time goes on, and there are fewer places or methods of disposal.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunately,
I mean, the way I
Way
see it,
it's on.
it's one of those services where, everyone sort of needs. Everyone needs, water. I mean, I suppose you could have a private well. But, you know, some folks may not use the police department or the fire department or the library
Or the
or the schools, but I guarantee you, everyone generates trash, and you need to lawfully and legally get rid of it somehow. So, you know, I feel like it's one of those services that I want to keep, offering to residents. But, you know, there's a cost to it. And, you know, the override, you know, if it passes, that will be preserved.
it's possible that it's 5 and 4 as opposed to 6 and 5, but it really doesn't make a big difference. It is still over and above. And
Yeah.
I think it should be preserved.
Yeah.
Without a fee. The fee, and again, the March 11th Board of Health meeting, we talk about the fee. That becomes an enforcement nightmare. You know, how do you know that the person paid the fee? Well, Glenn Shaw doesn't know.
Yeah, you would have to provide him with a list, and now his drivers are expected to sort of enforce
that's not
that.
a nightmare.
It is, you know, they
Time-consuming.
yeah, they wanna go to each household quickly, pick up the trash and move on. They don't have necessarily the time to look at the list, you know. Now it's like every other house that they need to skip or not skip. It becomes an operational nightmare, and they're all about being efficient and fast. And having a list with them every single day is just gonna slow things down, you know, significantly.
Okay. So on 4.8, and then advertising.
I saw the signs are already up,
On the common, I saw the one on the common
Oh.
coming here today, the flashing signs.
Okay.
Yeah.
you
There's
know,
one in the harbor, is that a,
that was the
Yeah,
one I
there's-
saw today, because I
I
went to
saw
get,
the one on the common.
yeah, I went to
coming
get
down
lunch
13.
over at Patriot, and on my way back, I saw the sign. Let's see,
You put the
it's
pop-up on the website.
on the website. My understanding is the Friends of the Townsend Library, they
are they
are,
gonna try to promote it?
yeah, I've already seen sort of a rough draft of what their flyer looks like, so they're gonna, they are, they're not associated with the town, so they have the ability to advocate for something like that. They certainly couldn't, I think they might be able to, I'm not sure if they can pass it out inside the library or senior center. I need
They
to,
can,
okay.
yeah, the
Okay,
Friends
so
of
yeah,
the
so-
Library, sure.
But another, an actual board or committee, might not be able to do something like that, because that would be like political campaigning or
Right,
something.
we cannot.
But they are an outside entity, so they have that, freedom of doing that. So I've sort of, they send me some of their draft literature. It looks pretty good. Sabrina did one up, on our end, just to promote, the public forum, the annual town election, and the annual town meeting. That's all we can sort of legally do, because we can't advocate it, at least in terms of a flyer, which way, someone should vote, but we can
Uh-huh.
certainly advertise that these are the dates.
Can we get it on the town calendar on the website so that April 16th has that highlighted, and maybe put where the agenda goes, put the flyer that Sabrina made or something like that? And then on the pop-up, a link to the budget.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
we've,
So that pop-up, I will be adding more information to it.
okay,
Certainly the flyer, and more in a copy of the budget as well for folks to sort of peruse through. So those are kind of our ways of getting the word out for people to come to.
I'm sure it'll be on Facebook.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, so the flyer that Sabrina did up, maybe you guys can take a look at it, and if it's okay with you, we'll send it, we'll make sure all the departments advertise it if they have social media, because I think certain departments do have a social media presence. They can just advertise, those important dates that we've highlighted that is part of this.
And hopefully, I just wanted to say before, when we're talking about, finance didn't recommend keeping the human resources person. I think when you do an elimination, you have to come up with, well, who's gonna take care of this now? So they need to assign, they need to, you can't just have a void and go backwards. So anyway,
in my mind, we have no lawsuits, we have no grievances right now.
Yeah.
We have things happening equitably, for everybody. I think it's essential.
yeah, I agree. Or figure, or come up with a solution,
Right.
not just an axe. 4.9, discuss set schedule for union negotiations and assign select board member for union
Can I back up
negotiations.
just for 1 second to the presentation?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put my PowerPoint together, Nelson, and then
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Yep.
And then, is it what we want? And then you will add the budget.
Yep, and I'll add a few slides too. I think, I think the general tone is, for me at least, is to keep things kind of very basic and simple. While there's a lot of information to digest, as we've seen with dozens of hours of meetings, but we don't have dozens of hours to go through everything, with the public. So I want to keep things kind of high level, kind of simple and to the point, that you don't need dozens of hours of viewing the meetings in order to truly understand where we're at and, what the implications are,
So I'll keep it short.
Oh, yeah, no, and that's not like that's not a criticism for what you plan to do, but I think that's probably the tone I want to set with the presentation.
Okay, well,
I think
So,
the biggest thing is gonna be what happened, or that they should wanna know is what happens if the override fails.
well, that kind of maybe leads us to 4.9, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are very concerned what the implications are. I honestly don't know the answer to that at the moment. I know what from a budgetary perspective, what that number is, but what that actually means for like staff,
Or services,
right, well, that kind of,
losing staff, losing services.
right, so, I just, at this moment, I don't know what that really looks like. There's still a lot of variables,
Okay, so,
I still need to talk to a lot of folks and, and 4.9 is, to, talk to the unions to get them to the bargaining table. But I honestly don't, have a solid answer at the moment of what that looks like because,
and Veronica, will you do that?
well, it's really in terms of where the cuts would come from.
Well, this is to
Um,
select board member for the union negotiations.
Right,
we've always done that. We've always had a select board member,
Yes,
and
I
we
know,
do. I
I'm
mean, I'm doing
asking you.
police negotiations right now.
Yeah, and I've
As-
not done them, and that's something that I'm not qualified to do. Negotiation, well, I can negotiate, but not
So you want me to
Contracts.
be the
I-
person?
do.
I'm
You've been
okay with
doing it,
that.
and you've done it before, so I don't think it's a good time for a green person to
Okay,
try to negotiate with unions. It's not my forte.
okay.
Yeah.
I do think that when we go on the 16th, what I want to avoid is, what I think we have to be is pretty high level. We need 200K or whatever it is that we need. Well, more than that, it's $387. $387,000 is needed if the override fails. 625, you take out the 300 for trash. If the override fails, I don't know about you, but I am not comfortable signing a contract with Shaw's where we as a town have to come up with
Right.
300,000 and don't have any other funds available to pay for it. So trash goes out. That's 325K needed, plus the pay-as-you-throw grant, which we're offsetting to get to the 625. We're using that as part of the
62.
offset. So that means you add 62 to 325 and you get $387,000. We've already gone through, the departments have, and done the expenses. That means it's salary. And the question is where. So I think we have to say it's 387,000 pretty much salary dollars. Now, there are some, I know Nelson's been working on, there are some positions that aren't, that are vacant. And we have not taken those into consideration in the 625.
yeah,
override.
I know,
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, some of those,
and without getting into, specifics at the moment, yeah, that's the conversation we need to have is we're not really able to specify, at the meeting on April 16th, this is exactly
job,
what's being
this
cut,
job.
because it flies in the face of what is proper and within the bounds of, the union contract and everything, but you can sort of talk in more generalized terms and then, And then later on, that's when you actually go to the bargaining table, when you're absolutely certain this is what you want to cut or reduce.
I think it's late. I think it's late to wait until after the 16th.
Well, I need to look into it further, but everything speaking with, town labor council
Yeah,
and even, my counterpart in Pepperell, when they kind of had this problem last year. It doesn't, it's not, it should and can be done late, after April 16th. If, I know you want.
it's April 28th. We have from April 28th to May 6th. That's the window, because May 6th, we have to go to town meeting with a balanced budget. And that balanced budget will not include the $625,000 for the override if the override fails.
On April 28th.
If the override fails on April 28th, on May 6th, we have to go to town meeting with a balanced budget.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, we need to be talking to each of the unions earlier. That's my mind, but
Yeah.
I am not labor council,
Right,
so
and,
I just think it's more fair that way.
it's not that, I have an aversion to talking to the union. It's more of, we can't really be talking to the union in very vague and general terms. They want an actual plan from us to present to them. So we literally have to specify this, either these are the positions we're gonna cut or reduce their salaries, or some other, something in their contract that we're trying to negotiate. Maybe it's longevity or clothing allowance or anything else, so.
Well, that's kind of what I want to know. I mean, if we do go to the bargaining table with those, well, maybe I'm talking too much. Is that enough? Will that get us the 387? Because I would like to have every employee here. I want the override to pass.
Yeah, me too.
We've needed an override for 5 years. And we've cut pretty much every year. We haven't replenished capital stabilization. We haven't replenished stabilization. If you look through the old annual reports, you'll see where we put money into capital stabilization. We put money into stabilization pretty much every year, even if it was only 25,000 or 50,000 from free cash.
Right. Now there isn't any.
And it isn't, and we haven't replenished. And now right now we have 87,000 in capital stabilization. So to make the capital plan, after we do that at town meeting, we are going to have, I think it's like 19,000 in capital stabilization. So we can't buy any more equipment.
I mean, we would have to, borrow for it.
Right, and we're not in a bad borrowing place. We aren't. That's why we can get the snowplow. But as time goes on, and especially given that we have the 2 fire trucks coming in, we're out several years till we can borrow again.
Yeah,
comfortably.
Because some of those out years, and it's not even that far out. You see a significant spike in our debt payments, and debt payments, that's out of the operating budget. So
Correct.
if it spikes, significantly, that leaves you with less money to pay for everything else.
I think it's 3 years out, 3 years and 4 years out where we have that spike.
Maybe I'll need to take a look at it again. And I've been talking to Melissa to try to smooth out some of those years, whether it's we sort of refinance with
Yes.
a longer term, because I think some of those were like 5 or 10 year terms. But if it's permissible to do like a 15 or 20 year, it kind of spreads things out a little bit further. I know that means you actually pay more in interest. I mean, that's just simple math, but, you know, given the financial situation we're in, I don't know, I mean, you know, that's just one way of, reducing, you know, our payments, in those out
Right.
years. Is
And
just-
it also depends on the life expectancy of the equipment that was purchased.
That's part of it too. You can only, you know, go out so many years and it still be permissible. So I'll continue to talk to town council, but everything I have heard is that we need a solid plan to present to the unions. It can't be brought, just, you know, it can't be in general terms.
Then we need to work on that plan. Maybe we need a couple of executive sessions to do that. And
possibly.
I think that on the 28th, that plan needs to be available and the unions should be on notice that if the override fails, we need to have negotiating sessions the week of the 28th.
I'll
But
start.
talk to town council.
Yeah, I'll start having some more detailed conversations, and I've been behind the scenes sort of doing what I can with positions that, you know, currently there's no one in it or won't be anyone in it.
Right.
You know, not filling a vacancy, you know, that's not hurting anyone because it's vacant. You know, things like that, just every dollar I can save that way means,
It is hurting the department.
well, it
It's
is,
not
but
hurting somebody
it's
personally,
not
but
hurting
it's
someone personally.
hurting the town and services being done.
No, of course, but yeah, that is the other side of that, you know, of that decision.
It would be helpful if you could collect all the taxes that were due.
Well,
Well, that,
we do a pretty good
that-
job of trying to collect what we
Yeah.
can, but,
that winds
And
up
we've had
rolling
some
into
sales
free
and
cash,
hopefully
free
have
cash
some
for
more.
next year.
so yeah, like I said, you know, every dollar that I can save that doesn't affect an actual person here in town at the moment, you know, that means it's one less dollar that would, you know, affect someone that's currently there, and that would be the priority if the override doesn't pass, is how do we preserve as many people as possible that are currently employed.
So can we start talking in executive sessions?
Yeah, I think we can probably start as early as next week, I think.
I think
Let me get a few things together, to see how that conversation would go in executive session.
Okay,
But yeah, it very well could be as early as, the meeting on the 8th.
okay,
So,
that's good.
actually, it gives us 2 days because we're probably gonna post the agenda on Thursday.
Yeah.
I guess we can always put it on the agenda, and if we can't do it, then that's
Yeah.
fine, you know, but we don't have any opportunities left, you know, but I'm all for, given how, you know, we're kind of up against the deadline, I wouldn't be surprised if we needed to have, out of cycle meetings, you know, between now and the end of the month. Which we could probably talk about towards the end of
Okay,
this
Yeah, we can
agenda.
talk about that.
Yeah, so.
so do you have anything else? So we'll try to get something for the next meeting executive.
Correct.
Okay. 5.1, do you have any other administrative updates or reports?
Let's see. I had two things, and I think one I already shared with everyone. The governor extended the remote hybrid meeting through 2027.
Mhm.
So another 2 years and like 3 months that we'll
Yeah,
have.
I think it's June 30th of 2027.
27, correct. So I think I shared that with all the various departments, so
Yeah.
so we're good to go. And today's actually April 1st, so we it would have expired if the governor hadn't signed that bill.
They would have had the opportunity to do it in perpetuity, but they didn't.
Yeah, this is just a temporary measure. I was hoping they would do it as a permanent,
I agree.
so, but, I'll take 2 years and 3 months. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of was, I guess UMass Memorial has decided to build a new, like, emergency, a satellite emergency facility in Groton to deal with the closure of Neshoba, which I need to talk to maybe the fire chief to have him explain it to me. Why would they build a completely new building when there's a perfectly good hospital?
It has something to do with the ownership of the
Yeah.
land, or the building, or both, and they're separate.
Good is the way to go with that, because it needs a lot of work.
Right, that too.
That needs a lot of work. That was part of the problem.
Well, but the thing is, this facility apparently is not gonna be up and running until the end of 2026. So
It's
that's
probably how long it would take to renovate that building,
maybe,
if it was a possibility.
right. So, those are some
I
of
like
the.
the location.
Where is it?
It's across from the yellow buildings in Groton,
Oh, yeah.
where Deluxe was,
Yeah.
right there,
Oh,
I believe.
Deluxe is not there anymore?
I put a pin on the map.
What did I miss?
Well, they're gonna put affordable housing in the back part. Yeah, they tore down that whole building, I believe. And it's gonna be a huge development back there, with
Oh,
a certain
good for Groton.
percentage of it affordable. And so it's the part towards the front,
Okay,
right by one
makes
nineteen.
sense.
For Townsend, I think it's a good location.
Yeah,
For
it is.
Pepperell, for Groton, it's a
It's
good
closer than
location.
Neshoba.
Yes,
That spot is closer
Yes.
than Neshoba.
yes, it is. So, anyway.
I thought it was a good idea. I didn't know the location in Groton. I knew it was Groton.
I took what was in the announcement, I took the address and just Google Earthed it, and that's where it
Oh,
is.
that's pretty good.
So yeah, apparently it'll be up and running by the end of 2026, which is about a year and a half from now. So
Time flies.
so that was really all the updates I
Okay.
had.
Okay, I have a one.
I have nothing, so you go right ahead.
So the Energy Committee, we already did. The perambulation, that is April 25th.
Thank you for coming.
guys.
Yeah,
you.
thanks, you guys.
Very kind, I really appreciate it.
April 25th is the plan for walking. If there's a rain, we'll go.
I marked it on my calendar.
Perfect. Okay, I'm
Is there
looking
a
forward
time?
to doing that. It was like 9 o'clock, I think, but nothing's been set yet.
Okay, I
And
just marked it
Cora
on my
was saying, getting the van from the Pepperell Senior Center, so we are all together, because there's not a lot of parking along Haynes Road, if you go on out there.
I saw that about the van and I didn't know.
That's why. There aren't a lot of places to pull off along the
Okay.
road. So if we were all in our own car,
Right.
it would be,
Too much.
but we might be able to do 2 cars, but anyway, okay.
All right.
So that's that. TAHT, the Housing Trust, we met, not last week, the week before, and we're going to continue working with Mass Housing Partnership. We voted to also hire a third party to consult with us with the goal to have an RFP out. Apparently the best time to put an RFP out is in August. So that's really pretty quick.
Mhm.
And Kieran says that it can take several rounds of RFPs till you get the right person. So if we can get our act together enough to gather data from the community, and that's another thing that a consultant and MHP can help us with, to, go out with the concept to see what people want, and then help use that information to inform the RFP. What the concept, it doesn't have to be the final form of what we go out for. So there's that. The Finance Committee, I think we talked about the three recommendations.
Mhm.
The one thing, and this is my suggestion, this is something that I thought of after the fact that I'm going to throw out there. We had gotten the ClearGov software in late 2022, early 2023, which for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me, did not work with our budgeting process or the way our budgets are written. So, and ClearGov software is used by many municipalities to project out and do their budgeting. I think it would be a good idea to have some sort of software that does this, not relying on Excel.
Mhm.
I mean, right now, if you know, Dawn does the Excel thing, if Dawn isn't available, who on that committee picks this up and goes forward with it? Yeah. And so we are in a bad shape budget-wise for that. So my thought is, and Nelson and Lori, you guys can see what you think. It doesn't have to be ClearGov software. There might be other software out there. But I was wondering, Nelson, if the finance team, that means the assessor's office, the treasurer, the accountant, and you, whoever wants to do that, could work together, evaluate see what other places use, and then review that budgeting software and recommend a purchase with the hopes that we have enough free cash in the fall, December, after free cash is certified, to pick one of those and go forward with it. What Dawn tells me is it just didn't fit our budgeting process. I mean, so to me, you manipulate the budget to fit the software. And it means that, yes, you have to talk about it and change how you do things. Maybe they have different categories, similar to when you go to use Quicken. You know, that's an old thing, I guess, now, but you have to move things around to make it work. So I just think it would be good. I am tired of hearing that the select board doesn't want to do budget projections, when in fact, when I was on the select board previously, we very much wanted to do that.
And it should be a program within the town, not within somebody's laptop.
Well, I agree with that
It should be
too.
within, it shouldn't be a volunteer who has this. It should be somebody who's, who works here who has it.
I agree. So, I just think that looks, and if it costs more than 10,000 to keep the software from year to year to year, let's get it in our capital plan. You know, it for futures, you know, purchase it with free cash once we've identified what works for the town. And then that's just a thought.
And,
but I do think it's something that needs to be brought forward.
And, you know, ClearGov is one of the juggernauts out there in the municipal finance world. And if we can maybe convince everyone to get on board with ClearGov again, because, you know, we got ClearGov through the grant, and I believe those grants, it's the compact grant.
And I looked, it's no longer available.
Oh, that one's no longer.
It says it was a best practices grant.
Oh,
and if you go online, it says these are no longer available.
And that one is not.
And it's no longer funded.
That grant is no longer available.
Right. You can do IT grants. So maybe we can get budgeting software with an IT grant. I don't know.
Maybe not. We actually have submitted
for other IT things.
Yeah, the fiber grant.
The fiber grant.
Yeah,
okay.
That was a phase one. Karen's working on phase two. And I think, Erin, before she left, did one for that too. We submitted a grant to digitize some of our records. Not all of it, because it was above and beyond the scope, at least from a budgetary perspective. So, you know, we kind of did like a good wag, you know, like, you know, 15,000 in this office worth of scanning, you know, 20,000 here. So, you know, we're waiting to hear back, but yeah, Erin, before she left, submitted a grant to help us digitize some of our paper files.
Okay,
Okay, so that's just, I think that's just something we need to be working on with the goal of having something in place for next year's budget process.
Okay.
Audit committee, Dawn and I met, was it just last night? Yes. And I sent forward the motion to, have the engagement letter looked at. So Sabrina, do you have this engagement letter? Did this come to you or to you?
I think you sent it to us,
Maybe
recent.
last week.
Yeah,
Yeah, it just came in last week. Yeah, because I think you gave it to me.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the Roselli. Yes, we had
Oh,
a
yeah.
discussion and I wanted to wait until after Dawn and I had time to review before it went to town council. So it should be reviewed by town council and then put on the agenda to
next week
approve.
maybe?
And it gives us our dollar amounts to put in the budget for the audits going forward, the FY 25 audit that will be done in FY 26.
and remind me that their FY 26 proposal was the 30K that we originally,
It was 29. We had 30, and that's just for the operating budget.
oh, that's right.
If we need to have a single audit, which I think we do, that's another 4 to 5K.
Oh, that's right.
And if we need a second single audit, which I'll be surprised, but we do have a lot of grant funds, but it's federal grant money. I don't know how much of our grant money is federal. If that's the case, then an additional single audit will be 1,500 to 2,000.
Okay, yeah, I actually forgot to increase the audit budget to 35,000. Yeah, so I just did it right now.
Yeah, so that's what this is.
Well, that just increased the
Yes, it did, didn't it?
budget by 5,000.
How much?
Well, by 5,000.
By 5,000. I looked at it as what came in from fire versus this, it's a wash, anyway,
Yeah.
so that's audit. CR, the next meeting is April 10th, and we're reviewing the CR holder. I think I said this last week, is potentially fishing game. And they have a separate CR template than the EOEEA or whatever it's called now, template for that. So, and that is it, I think.
Okay, so, I do have something, kind of a little, something that we didn't expect at planning. And that was, it was almost back to square one on the MBTA.
I watched
Zoning
not
bylaw.
all of that meeting, just the beginning part of it. I don't know what you guys decided to do.
We withdrew the. For,
Okay.
May 6th. We
Okay.
withdrew that. We withdrew that. I saw the email that went to you to withdraw from
Yeah.
Beth.
Yep.
So we, at our next meeting, we intend to have like everybody there to get, feedback on, do we go back to, I mean, personally, I liked one of the other districts, but, there were pros and cons and people were saying why this is good, whatever. But what we didn't expect was that the state wasn't gonna accept it. So the thought of, well, whatever we put up for the bylaw, it's gonna be okay, was not the case. So I've reached out to, MRPC, Glenn, as well as, and there's you were copied on email from Beth to Mr. Doyle.
Yeah.
And Boyle. Sorry. And, yeah, we're gonna rediscuss it at the next
My only comment on that meeting, because he was saying, well, if you don't do it now, you can do it at your fall town meeting. Our fall town meeting is in January, or has been in January the past couple of years.
Hopefully we'll try to have it.
It would have to be, we might have to have a special town meeting specifically for that, if it has to be by the end of December of.
Well, we're
Do
gonna
you see what
talk
I'm
more
saying?
now. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna talk more now. No, it's not gonna go to this meeting.
No, not to this one,
It won't go to this one.
but we may have to have a town meeting before free cash is certified, specifically for the MBTA bylaw, if there is a hard and fast December deadline.
If we show good faith in what we're doing between now and then, and we're gonna be delayed to a January meeting, they're not
That
gonna
would be
crucify
okay.
us over it.
Okay,
So we do have some, in fact, he said that himself, that was a possibility, that this could take a little bit longer. But rather than getting shot down, because we had gone for a pre-approval kind of
Mhm.
thing,
yeah,
and it was not gonna come back good, so we withdrew the request for the pre-approval.
okay.
And then after hearing him, talk a bit, it's disappointing. It's
Yeah,
really disappointing. So, it will be, the board hasn't made any decisions. We're gonna have a discussion on if they wanna go back to, one of the other ones that we already
Mhm.
kind of vetted among the board.
Right,
Or do they wanna find another one? I don't know.
okay.
But we need water. It needs water, and it needs to be reasonably suitable rather than having the water. And I don't know why this didn't happen. Water Department and Board of Health would not have approved the site. Why we didn't have that before, I have no idea. Don't ask.
Okay.
So, that was very disappointing, because you're talking about 18 months of volunteer work, let alone the grant money.
Mhm.
So, I'm not really pleased with it. From an MRPC point of view, I'm not pleased, and I'm not pleased for the town. So, we will continue with that, but hopefully come out better, because hopefully everything happens for a reason, and it's usually better than what you thought it was gonna be, so that's
That
what I'm
is
gonna go
true.
with. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, again, for everyone, there are open positions, there are volunteer positions, as well as positions you can be written in for. All of you out there not really knowing what's happening or just listening to one person, it would be great if you actually joined us on committees or elected. For those positions that are not written in, there will be opportunities to be appointed to those positions. And I'm sure there's a place for everyone, and we would like you to join us, because we don't want to be doing this alone. Okay, that's my pitch there, under elected. And you don't have anything under public safety?
I'm trying to think now where,
Okay.
no, we got all the public safety
Already pre-announced.
expense adjustments, those came in, and I think we're all good.
Okay. Sabrina, have there been any volunteer forms?
No.
I do need to ask the question. All right, now are we going into executive?
No, not
Tonight,
today. No,
Oh, why did I think we were?
next week,
Yeah,
maybe.
next week, possibly.
Oh, I thought I had to do my reports by today
What reports?
for reviews.
Oh, no, it's next week. It's,
Oh, you meant my performance review. That's not under executive
I
session.
haven't done that.
No,
yet.
but
We have to get them in to you first, right?
To Callie.
To Callie.
yeah, okay.
I haven't done one yet.
Oh,
Thank you for reminding me.
oh,
Yeah, if we need to punt another meeting, that's fine, but
Oh, well, then I'll talk to Callie. I didn't realize I should,
Yeah,
okay.
she usually, at least in the past, she would take them.
I have no past.
Oh, that's true.
This is my
Well,
first time.
I
And
only
I'm
did it
looking at the
once.
forms going, okay, let's see, 3+ months. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's been chaos. So, I'll talk to Callie. Okay.
Okay, I will too. I have to look at that.
Yeah,
Let me
I
write
believe
that
she
down.
sent you the
She did.
Yeah,
tablets.
she sent the forms.
And
I thought it was my
Sabrina
homework.
sent and,
Do you want me to just fill it out for you?
a
No.
reminder. I'll take care of it.
Damn, I had to try.
So, all right, okay, I'll talk to Callie because again, first time in this position.
Right.
Okay, so next meeting is April 8th at 6 p.m., April 15th at 6 p.m. And then we meet on the 16th for the forum. That's not on here, but I will put that on here. And that is at 7, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Are we gonna do a dry run beforehand of the presentation? Are we gonna, maybe on the 15th? Just a
We could,
bounce
we
through?
could. I don't see harm to it.
Yeah, we could, or, I'm trying to think.
We could do it separately, you
Yeah,
know?
Oh.
I mean, yeah, I'm,
Yeah, I
We're
wouldn't
meeting
wanna
on the
do it in
15th.
this.
You don't
in
wanna
this-
do it in session?
Not in session, no, that would be, no, but we might want to, on one of our Wednesday afternoons or whenever you two meet, if we went over it and then you went over it.
yeah, I think, you know, everyone seeing it beforehand obviously makes
Not a
sense.
good,
But in terms of, you know, we'll figure out who's really talking most of the time.
right, right.
I feel like, I mean, I think
Not me.
I think I'll probably be doing, you know, a lot of the talking,
That's what I think.
um,
I'm happy to talk. I'm always happy to talk.
so yeah, we'll figure out what a good mix is in terms of,
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, but for budget and all of that, I mean, I could do a little background, the DLS background
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So, you know, it'll be part of the planning process of how it's sort of, the presentation is laid out.
And we might want to talk to John too and make sure he knows what we're doing and,
Derek.
yeah. He's moderating.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think for, where, you know, his experience will really come in is during the Q&A session. Yeah, because that's when.
I really wanted the microphones.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
people, so that there isn't any, well, I wanted to say something, but I didn't get a
Right.
chance because I wasn't called on. Which is,
We used to do that. I remember doing that in Hawthorne Brook. You
oh,
had to
the
walk down
lining
the
up at
steps
the,
and go
yeah.
to the, yeah, we've
But
done it.
we don't have that ability here though, to do that really, I don't think.
Well, you could have it in the middle of the two sides.
I guess you
absolutely-
could.
And there's a microphone upstairs. Somebody wants to get up, they can talk to the microphone.
That's
You
true.
can.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay,
So, yeah, so I think,
Sabrina has her hand up.
Mentioned
Yes, ma'am.
earlier that there might be suggestions for out of cycle meetings. Is there anything?
oh,
Good
yeah,
idea.
I don't have anything at the moment. I mean, I think the joint meeting with finance committee, but I think the earliest it could probably happen is next Wednesday or Thursday at the earliest, I feel. So that would be the 9th or the 10th.
9th. The 10th, I have a CR committee meeting,
Is that it in the evening?
7 PM.
Okay, so then,
Let's target the 9th.
yeah. For,
Okay, I'm gonna write that in here now.
which would mean we need to post by like Monday morning. What's up?
9?
Yeah.
I
No go?
could do 7.
Okay,
I can't do 6.
Okay.
okay.
I can probably show up I can probably try to get here like a quarter of, I'll be in Lunenburg, I won't be here. So 7
On the
on the
9th.
9th,
On the 9th.
and that would be with finance,
Yeah, if they,
if they want to.
correct. Or we could, do something, possibly on the 14th. Or, if we have a meeting,
I don't think I have a meeting on the 7th.
well, we would need to post by,
That's Monday.
we would need to post by Thursday. And they meet on Thursday night, so
They meet
we wouldn't,
Thursday.
we wouldn't even know the outcome of their
Yeah, okay,
meeting.
okay, that's
So,
fine.
yeah. So we could even meet on the 14th, or we have another select board meeting on the 15th, it'd be adjourned then. But that's, cutting off the close with the meeting on the
The
16th.
next day, yeah.
I mean, not that necessarily we need to be 100% in agreement by the 16th. But
Okay. So are we putting 7 for the 9th?
yeah,
as
just
possibility?
yeah, just
Yeah.
cancel that.
Okay,
Please.
all right.
Okay. So we're putting down April 9th at 7.
Where's my phone?
Do we have review of payroll and bills payable?
Mhm.
Gonna need a motion? 5.5, review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session. Yeah, it says executive session.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none.
Veronica Cal, aye.
Laura Schifrin, aye. Then we can adjourn at
8:47.
8:47.
So
Yeah.
moved.
Second. Laura Schifrin, aye.
Veronica Cal, aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for joining us.